Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is my new setup on the wall. I had posted a picture of it and someone told me that it almost seemed like an extension of my tattoos, which I thought was really cool because I had also had a request to talk about and explain my tattoos as well. So I thought it'd be a good place to do it. It might be a little bit hard to see, that's the only thing. But I guess I would start with saying, like, if you want tattoos and you're not sure what you want, like, I would definitely wait until you're sure. A lot of people, like, because everybody kind of does it now, they think like, oh, I should get one. And it's like, if you really don't want it, like, don't get it just because it's like kind of trendy or whatever, because that's going to be something that's going to phase back into where people don't do it anymore and it's looked at badly again. Like, I'm sure it's not going to, it's like be this permanent, transition into people being totally accepting of tattoos. And I had something I did as a kid with a needle and Indian ink from art class on my leg. It was supposed to be like a star, but it was really like just like a bunch of dots, and I had that removed. It hurt so fucking bad. Like, it was way, way worse than I would have ever imagined. Like, people say it's twice as bad as a tattoo. No, it's like 10 times as bad as a tattoo. It was the woman who was doing it, she normally does my facials, and it was her first time doing it, and it's in Pennsylvania. You can, as long as you're working under a dermatologist, you can do the lasers. Every state's different anyway, so she hadn't done it before. And when she started doing it, I was like, fuck, and I jumped, and she's like, does it hurt that bad? I'm like, yes it does, or worse. It's really, really bad. So definitely think about it before you do it, because for me, I had always wanted, I always wanted sleeves. I didn't know I wanted a chest piece, but before I thought I'd actually go ahead and get sleeves, I had kind of planned the chest piece before, but we'll start with my first tattoo. My first tattoo, now they call it a tramp stamp. Back in the day, it was like sexy, and we're talking about like 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, yeah. And I was like, well, if I only get one tattoo, I'll get it there, because that's like usually if somebody only has one, that's where they get it. So unfortunately, I'll show you. The person who did it did not do a good job. It looks really, really blurry. I'm going to back up so you can see it. Really, really blurry. And I do not like it. But the thing was, I was like, I'll never regret it, because it's from my friend who passed away when I was 16 and she was 17. And it was then drawn by a mutual friend of ours. So I thought, like, oh, it's like so meaningful. Like, this is what I want to get. And what was the worst about that is when I was dancing, guys would ask what the tattoo was. And then it's like, yeah, because that's really sexy to be talking about, what happened to your friend. And it's just like, so like, it reminds you of it every time. And it's like, and then you feel like it's just weird to be talking about that at like a strip club. Like, the whole thing was strange. And I was like, well, that was a fucking mistake. But I am not getting that lasered off. Because it's three-dimensional, like, it's bumpy. So like, I feel like even if it was lasered off, it would still be bumpy. Though I have seen people have where they had raised tattoos and it was lasered and it wasn't bumpy anymore, which I was very surprised. Like, the scar tissue went away. So that was the first one. Then I got on my shoulders the stars, which you can kind of still see. There's more stars now, but originally it was like these ones, like here, whatever, like 6 of them, I think. And then I liked that. So I started small, and I started with something easy to hide. I think a lot of people think if you have a lot of tattoos, like, oh, you're addicted to tattoos, or like, you're like not responsible in the way you pick them out. But like, I wanted everything to be symmetrical. I'm like super, super big on symmetry. Obviously, you don't want the same thing on both arms. But I wanted to, make sure I was making good choices and stuff that I could easily hide. And if I didn't like it, it wasn't like I got something big and crazy. So I had the stars. I liked that. So then I wanted more. And I had bought a magazine. I want to say it's called Tattoo Gallery. And if you are thinking about getting a tattoo, Tattoo Gallery is a really good magazine to get. A lot of tattoo magazines, if they still have paper magazines, I don't even know, are more like lifestyle kind of based, where Tattoo Gallery is like, okay, chest pieces, boom, 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 several pictures of chest pieces, foot tattoos, several pictures of foot tattoos. So it's like, you really get an idea of what you want and what different things look like, and you could get ideas for what you want from that. It's not like where it's something where you're just reading about tattooed models or reading about tattoo artists. So that could inspire me to get a chest piece. And my best friend in high school, she got like swallows here, which is kind of like a traditional type tattoo, and I definitely didn't want to do the same thing she was doing. And I had kind of intended for this to be a little bit more traditional, because that was what I was seeing in that magazine and kind of what I had known about. And luckily, I had gone to an artist that he doesn't really do traditional stuff, and he kind of put his own twist on it, which was really cool. So I'll show you that. So like you can see how it could be a traditional with the Sacred Heart, the skulls, the bat wings with the spider web thing, and then the flames. So that's like one of the first stars. I'm trying to think. This is one of the first stars, and then the one that everyone forgets to fill in, even me, is one of the first stars. So, and then it says Coma White in the middle, and I mentioned in another video, but that's a Marilyn Manson song, and the chorus to the song is, "A pill to make you numb, a pill to make you dumb, a pill to make you anybody else, but all the drugs in this world can't save her from herself." And I felt like that was a really good kind of quote, and like I just love that song, and it's so good. It's on Mechanical Animals, so it's like a more softer, like kind of electronic song, like compared to some of the stuff you think most people think Marilyn Manson, like Beautiful People or like Sweet Dreams. Beautiful People is like a lot harder, I would say, than Coma White, but I felt like that really described me well, whether it was drinking or not drinking or whatever, sober or actively using, that it was still going to be true. So I got that, and then I remember it was like, I first was like making money. This is when I was working at the haircutter. I started first making money, and I'm like, oh, like I want to get more of it done. So I was like, well, whatever you think, if you want swirls, more stars, like I went to the same artist that did this part, and he was like, he just drew all this. That was his idea completely, which was so cool, because this is actually my favorite part. And then later on when I was getting this, the artist went into that and went over it with a different color, and I wanted to like fucking, oh my god, I was so incredibly angry, because I'm like, I can't get this, you know, redone. Like what? I'm just thinking so you can see the swirls. And it's like because he did a lot of biomechanical stuff, it like follows the shape of the body, which I think is like key. Like, and also too, that it looks cool. Like when people will be like, oh, like this is really meaningful, I'm gonna get it because of this, and you know, whatever. And then they show you the picture and you're like you're gonna regret that shit. Because like this one, it was like, oh, it's so meaningful, and it is meaningful, and I still, you know, obviously that was a huge part of my life, that was a big deal. Like I think about her all the time, but just the aesthetic of it is not good, mostly because of the way that it was done. But it was kind of supposed to look like 70s art, like you see like on like maybe like a poster for like a band in the 70s. Like that was kind of her style, and that's why she drew it that way. But I think when it's blurry, it totally takes away from that and almost just looks sloppy. But anyway, so he had done the swirls, and I really, really liked that. And then I wanted to get a sleeve, and then we had started dating, and I talk about that in the Nocturnal Devotion video. We started dating, and I had just broken up with a boyfriend of mine. It was very, like, I was all like upset because of the breakup, and he was all upset because of his breakup. So he's like telling me about that, like bonding over that kind of thing. And he had actually, when he first did this, I told him like where I worked. I was working at like like corporate restaurant, and he came in with his friend like a couple weeks later, and I had to go because I was in a recovery house. I couldn't just like chill with a guy at a bar. If anyone saw me, I would have gotten like either like disciplined or like just kicked out of the recovery house. Definitely discipline. I would probably get like fined, because that was like, I think that was the house I was in. No, I don't remember. But that's how they do. Like it's like a big thing. You can't be with like a guy first like month at least. You can't even be with a guy, out with a guy, talking to a guy, anything, period, which is really stupid, but that's recovery houses. So whatever, I had to leave anyway, but I like wasn't like the least have been interested in him, because like physically wasn't my type, nothing like that. So I was kind of like, you know, whatever, like kind of blew him off. Then after this, and that was like when we got into like a tumultuous relationship, and you know, it just was really bad, and everything was off and on, back and forth, and but he was a really, really good artist, and that was part of the reason that I was like so into him, because it was like, you know, that's like a thing I really like. When guys can draw really well, it's like really, really hot. Like I think a lot of women are like, oh, like you know, if they can play an instrument, or maybe I guess some women like athletes or whatever. But to me, it's like the drawing thing is like really hot, or even just like having like an eye for creativity, like creative stuff. So then I started the sleeve, and he came up with that part, which is like it's the plug, and it's like the electricity coming from the plug. Here, out of the way. Electricity coming from the plug, and then stars around it, and then the blow dryer, a makeup brush, like lots of little stars in there, a regular brush, more swirly things, shears, a compact, color coming out of the, oh wait, he didn't do that part. The lipstick, he had kind of only done to here, but it wasn't even finished. So then the breakup was really, really bad, and there was no way he was ever going to finish it. I had to find somebody else to go to then. And I went to somebody, she was, she was able to kind of follow it. It looks like it's one piece. It looks like it was done by the same artist. I don't think it looks super disconnected, but she was very, I think even if you look at the work, it looks like what he did was done by a female, and what she did was done by a male. It's weird, but she just wasn't very, she was just a bitch. Like, she wasn't that concerned with what you actually wanted. She had such a huge ego. Like, she's not even that good. Like, she did a good job, but she's not, like, all that. Like, as good as she thinks she is. She's an incredible marketer, definitely. And she does do good work, but just, like, her attitude, like, sucked. But it was like, I'm not changing artists again. Like, what am I going to do? So she did the hairspray, the mascara, the little diamonds, the hairspray kind of like swoosh thing here, which was kind of nice that she didn't do like into the elbow, even though I think, does this one have? There's a little more on the elbow, but anyway, because it hurts, obviously. And what else is on here? That's the part of the color tube. It looks like the Ricky's New York logo. The Ricky's New York logo looks more like toothpaste, which actually looks more like hair color. Most hair color in a tube isn't going to squirt out like that, but I just thought it would look cool. And because she had something that was like coffee coming out of a coffee cup that was splattering, and it had the highlights like that, and I thought that looked really cool, so I wanted something similar to that. And then false eyelashes. Yeah, so yeah, overall I'm happy with it, but you can see that there's a lot more detail in the top part, like with the swirls in the background, where she kind of just went all purple. But I do like that she did the open swirls here, so that way it's not, if you wear something to here, you're not going to see the tattoo, which is also what this artist did as well. So because I wanted something more detail, and I wasn't like completely happy with her just in general, customer service, and I would tip her really, I'm like, maybe if I tip her really well, she'll like care what I was wrong. So then I was looking between two people, and I don't know how to prevent anybody else from making this mistake, because it's a very easy mistake to make. The guy that I wound up going to start this sleeve was inconsistent, but it wasn't that obvious at first. I think he also, and I think it is very common for like, well, the same like tattoo artists, hairstyles, I don't want to like stereotype, but like you have a lot of freedom. So it's very easy for people that have like any kind of like, you know, addiction problems to get into those type of careers, especially this guy wasn't even like working as shop, he was working out of his house, which I was like, well, whatever, like I get it, because the guy that did this, he was working out of his house for a little bit when he left the shop he was at, he ended up going back to a shop, but still, okay, not a big deal, right? And at first he was like, seemed really good, and he had a lot of big pieces on his Instagram, so there were a lot of sleeves, there were a lot of like side pieces, and like really like, you know, big pieces, so you could see that he knew how to put together a big piece, which is something that you actually do want to look for. But I don't know, he was just so inconsistent, and it seemed like he started, like, he kind of fell off, like, he was super into, like, health and working out and all this stuff, and then, like, the next time I saw him, he was, like, smoking a cigarette, and I was like, okay, like, you're talking about, like, eating clean and, like, drinking a lot of water, and now you're smoking a cigarette, like, that's, like, who is this person? Like, it was completely different, and then he was, like, tattooing us, like, he would tattoo my husband, too, with his shirt off, and then, like, take a break to smoke weed, and, like, it's fine, like, if your work is consistent, I don't really care, do what you gotta do, but if it's not consistent, and that's kind of the thing that seems to have changed, then it's like, that's when you start to be like, okay, well, obviously, something is very different. Like, it seemed like he was just a different person. So the point of this one was supposed to be, like, here's, like, the girl, and I like that she looks like Lady Gaga. That made me happy, because I love Lady Gaga. But, I was gonna originally have, because he had something that was, like, a natural-looking face, so I was gonna have her like this, holding like a mask of a natural looking face, and it kind of to be like, this is who she really is, and for her to pretend to be normal, that would be a mask. So I feel like people are like, oh, and be yourself, and why do you dye your hair, and why do you do this, and why do you change? This is who I am. Like, it is who I am. Like, I don't feel myself when I don't, you know, have this. Like, this is what I want to look like. Like, it's like if everybody just is like, oh, I'm just gonna accept how things are, and like not dye their hair and like not wear makeup and not get tattoos. Like, oh my god, how boring it would be. Like, I can't even imagine. But like, just to me, like, that's not me. I feel like I'm in somebody else's skin. It's very, very uncomfortable. I hate it. Like, there was like there have been guys, you know, why can't you just be normal? And like, I had put up with that, like in one particular relationship that was like, I don't even know why I tried to change for this guy. I think that was a freshman, he was a senior, like whatever. So I felt like it was like, oh, like I should do that. And like, it just was so uncomfortable for me because it's not me. So that's what that kind of represents. Like Lady Gaga, Born This Way, because people will say that kind of stuff about Lady Gaga. And it's just so cool to see her become popular because this is, you know, later in my life. And how, you know, people I think get it a little bit more now, especially what she's done too for, I think, you know, culturally, like homosexuality and like how people aren't like as offended by like just all that kind of stuff. I feel like she's made it a lot more acceptable, like from what she's done, and people kind of, I mean, some people feel like it's almost like she's using, but I don't feel that way. I think that she actually did a lot in like changing the culture and like what people think, and people realize she's really, really intelligent. Also, Marilyn Manson used to be really, really intelligent. So those are like, I would say like them and Dita Von Teese are the people I look up to the most because they're eccentric, they have their own style, and they don't care what anybody else says. And usually, like, if you do it well, like, usually I would say most of those people are intelligent because it's like you have to think through what you're doing to be able to do it well. It's easy to like, oh, dye your hair a different color and look like an idiot. Anybody could do that. But if you do it well and like you have like, you can back up why you do it, I feel like that's what makes somebody really intelligent. Like, I mean, lots of things make people intelligent, but really admirable or like kind of like hero-like to me, because I think that's great when people are there saying like, you know, this is the thing, this is like, you know, and they're showing that you don't, it doesn't necessarily have to do with all these like bad stereotypes or like you're being irresponsible or whatever. So anyway, that's that kind of thing. And then it was supposed to be like her hair swirling into the haunted house, which is not, but into the haunted house and then come back out. So it was kind of supposed to be like the old like thoughts and habits, like leaving the, like the ghost leaving the haunted house, like kind of a cathartic thing. Because I had kind of felt like I was at a really good space in my life, and like just a lot of like kind of bad old thoughts that I had left me, which was really good. And then these monstery things are supposed to look like the ones in Devil's Advocate, because I love Devil's Advocate. That's my favorite movie. And I didn't want to get like Keanu Reeves with like Al Pacino's hands on his shoulders, because it would be like, there's no flow to that and it would look dumb, but I wanted something to represent, because that's when I think you've ever seen it, when she's changed with one woman. She's like the medical examiner on SVU. I don't know what the actress's name is, but she's like changing and she's like kind of trying to convince Charlize Theron that like she needs like plastic surgery or whatever, and then she slips the sweater over her head and then her face turns into this like kind of like monster face like for a second, and then Charlize Theron runs out of the store and Keanu Reeves thinks she's crazy, and it's like that's like the first time you kind of start to see the monsters in the whole thing. So I like that one the best. Also because it has to kind of do with like pressure to look different or whatever. Like, so I think it's like just a cool part of it. So he had gotten pretty far with it, and like he was like asking my husband for like to spot him money to give like him a discount when he got tattooed last. And the first time he like disappeared off the face of the earth, we couldn't find him. I think he might have been in jail. And then the second time he had asked, we were like, yeah, no. And I'm like, we have to find somebody else. So the other guy that I was kind of considering when I was looking at his work, I asked him. And he's amazing, and I should have gone with him in the fucking first place, but I was like, he didn't have a lot of huge pieces, so I wasn't sure. But like both of them seemed like they were like into biomechanical style, which is like the person who did this was, which is why it follows the body. And that's like a big thing with like biomechanical stuff, is that it's like because of the bio part, like following the body shape, which I think is what looks really, really good. I kind of want it to be like the things in Avatar, like, oh, like it's just like my skin. Like it's not like, oh, I have a tattoo. I want it to look like it's like part of my skin. Like I'm a little mythical creature. You know, my hair's just happen. You can't even tell my hair is blue. I feel like. Anyway, my hair just happens to be blue, and I just happen to have these. You know, this is what my skin looks like. Like I like that idea. I don't want it to look like I have like a sticker on me. So I started going to him, and I'm like, oh, I so should have gone with him from the beginning, but whatever. What are you gonna do? Definitely not getting laser, I'll tell you that. So he did the swirls here. He did a really, really good job on her hair. Like that's what hair should look like. This is what the other guy did, which I get because like to make it into the ghost thing, but like I feel like it should have started out looking like hair and transform into kind of the ghost thing. So yeah, so that part he did like the jewels and all the stuff, like he had enhanced this, like the mask, and he was able to make this look more like that again, because the other guy took it's so, see how it's like so block like of color here, where here it's a lot finer like details, and that drives me nuts. Like even when I'm looking at this video, it's driving me nuts. So he like went in and kind of put these swirls there, but they're really, I mean, look how dark that is. Like there's nothing you could really do, but he was able to make this part match, which is what the other guy went into. And I had even asked the ex-boyfriend at one point, because that's how desperate I was. I was like, oh my god, that's my favorite part of my tattoos. Like I can't believe he didn't even say anything before he went into it. And he was very positive and very nice. It was almost like hard for me to realize he was saying no at first, because he was just kind of like just really, really nice about it. And I'm like, okay, fine, I get it. You know what I mean? It was very, very bad. That's the whole. So I'm glad that I wound up going with the last guy. His name is Orin Hurley, actually, Orin, Orrin. And he's the only one that I would necessarily advertise for, because the first one is like with the ex-boyfriend. He's like, he would not be happy about me talking about him. So I don't want to do that. This mouse, I had wanted since I was 19. I wanted this. I thought it was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. And I remember I went with my husband to the Magic Garden in Philadelphia, and he was like, this is so cool, this is so cool. And I'm like, I told you. I'm like, wait till you see the mouse. Because it was Flash in this one. Nothing else I have is Flash. But Flash means like it's like a pre-drawn picture. So like Flash is like the stuff they have on the walls. So it's like something that artists will draw, like something that they do for a lot of people, versus something that's custom. So it's a whole thing. Like nobody, if it's a really good artist, they don't want to do Flash. That's like, that's for the like people that work in street shops that are like, just starting out. So it's hard to get somebody to actually do it. But he had actually, I had to like draw this several times. He said, like when he was first learning to tattoo, they made him do this splash. So it was like, oh, it's perfect. And I remember showing my husband it on the wall, and he's like, it looks like a Pokemon. What? Like, why are you that excited about this thing? I'm like, I just think it's so cute. And then I remember telling at one of my friends' houses, like at dinner, and I was telling them the idea for this whole thing, and they were all like, oh, that's so cool. And then, because the first time I described it, when I described it to them, it sounded super cool. Every time I describe it after that, it never sounds as good. I don't know what I said the first time that was so different, but, and then I'm like, and then this mouse, and everyone's like, what? And I'm like, the more people would talk shit about it, the more I wanted it. Because I was like, I need to defend this poor mouse. Like, I need him now. So I was so happy to finally get this mouse. And then, like, it matches, like, see, there's, like, the hearts. Like, there's that blue-green heart and then the red heart. So then, the last ones I'll talk about, because it's, like, just, they're just tiny. That's my feet. And I got this one first, and then the feet hurt really, 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 really bad. Still not as bad as tattoo removal, but they hurt really, really bad. And I got this one, and I think it took me 3 years to get the second one. But in that Tattoo Gallery magazine, I had seen things that were like fear and faith. Or it wasn't fear and faith, it was like fear and hope or something. And I was like, why would you do fear and faith? Because it's like the same letter at the beginning of the word. So I was like, well, I want to make it my own anyway. So fear was like a big thing in AA and recovery and stuff, is like, a lot of why people drink. It's like having fear, and the opposite of that would be having faith and like a higher power and that kind of thing. So it's fear, and then it's like a lock with the skull on it, and then like the crossbones for the skull are the needles, because at the time that was like my main thing that I was like struggling with the most was not shooting heroin again, because it was, especially too, like when I first started shooting heroin, I lost like 10 pounds in like 2 months or something, and I was like really insecure about my weight, which now I would love to be that weight that I was at the time. But I went from like, I guess 118 or 119 to like 110 or 108, which is what I was in high school, like in like a matter of time. So it was really, really hard to like kind of let go of like wanting to do it again. And it was like it wasn't necessarily that I was like, oh, I was like obsessing or something. It wasn't like I had to do anything to get there. It was like I just didn't even think about it while it was happening. And I remember really, really wanting to feel that way again, like to not even worry about it, like to just feel like I'm just doing, like I'm feeling good constantly, and also something that I've wanted to happen for so long is happening, like losing the weight. So huge struggle. That was why I put that. But I really didn't shoot heroin for that long. It just fucked up so much of my life, because I kept like going to Philly and like losing everything. I would like usually like screw up my job, get kicked out of the recovery house. That was the part that made it so bad. So then this one is faith, And I don't go to AA anymore, and I don't ever really want to go back again. I mean, I don't mind having it because like people in AA have done a lot for me, so it looks cool anyway. So that's like obviously big thing. But it's faith, and then it's a key, and it has the AA symbol in it. That's like this circle with the triangle, and then the edges. I like really get close because this one's hard to see. It's supposed to be, is it? Oh, because I'm looking at it backwards. That's why. So that's the G, and that's like the A symbol's like the O, and then the other one's like the D. So like it's supposed to be like God in AA because that's like a big thing, like the higher power thing. So I was so happy to finally have them kind of match because I had the negative one for so long and then finally got the positive one. I don't know if I would change. It adds detail to it, and like it was a big part of my life. So whatever the they think, but yeah. So that's why I got them and what they mean. But yeah, definitely, if I was to end on like advice, it would be definitely think about it, and even if it means something, make sure it's aesthetically pleasing at the same time. And yeah, just think that I would think about stuff there's stuff I thought about for years before I got it. At least, I've heard people say 6 months, but to me, at least a year. I think that you should think about it before you get it. And that was kind of my rule. Like, so definitely for me personally, it wasn't like, oh, I just need to keep getting tattoos. It was like I had a plan, and I think it looks like I had a plan. Especially if this wasn't like it this year, I feel like it really looked like that. But maybe look at the outside, it kind of, you could tell. But people will like, even when I was like working in like a really conservative area, like people would be like, I really love your tattoos. They're beautiful. And it was like they couldn't believe these words were coming out of their mouth because they had seen so many bad ones, and they were like, wow, like tattoos, and they look good. Like, and it's like, well, yeah, because I thought about it, and a lot of people don't. So you really have to think about it. And then because a lot of people, I mean, like, I get lots and lots of compliments, and I would somehow never went on with my mom, and I was like always like, when is it gonna happen? Somebody say something while my mom's here so she can shut up that like everybody's judging me. But she passed away, but like she had in her house before she died a picture of me. It was like outside of the salon I was working at, and I was wearing like a sundress, and you could see my tattoos, and she had it like in a frame in her house, and it was like, oh, like, she's like finally accepting it after like, I don't know, 10 years. But that was really, really sweet. I still have it. My husband has it on his desk. So probably split this into 2 videos because I can talk forever. And next, you guys are going to be meeting my husband. We have lots of good stuff coming out. I've recorded like a significant amount of stuff. I'm just kind of waiting to release it because I don't want to do everything at once and then be having taken a hiatus for a while, because I had taken a hiatus for a while when I was, moving, getting the house ready, all that stuff. So like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. I felt I couldn't deny you that, even though he wasn't in the room. So I did a special take so you get to see the baby. I love him so much. Don't mess up my lipstick. Anyway, bye. Thank you for watching.